I always wanted to become the best as soon as possible.
That's the reason I became a full-time live-in Aikido student for 3 years. That's the reason why I went to a full-time 6 months MMA training camp in the States. Why I trained full-time in Ireland for 3 months together with professional MMA fighters.
Yet, I recently learned that this approach only made things worse.
When I was a full-time live-in student in an Aikido school, I was still in my early 20s. I was burnt out after training more than 13 times per week, but after getting some sleep, I was ready to go again. Even if I went to bed at 1 a.m. and had to wake up at 6 in the morning, it wasn't a problem.
Yet, when I started training MMA full-time, I was not in my early 20s anymore.
The training was happening 5 days per week at 6 a.m. every morning.
Including the trip to the gym, I had to wake up at 4:45 a.m.
After the main training ended at 8 a.m., I didn't stop there. I then joined the advanced sparring session until 9:30. Sometimes I also continued to join in the evening classes or even the extra weekend training, just to make sure that I would learn as much as possible as fast as I could. For the first couple of weeks, I was doing quite well. I was showing good results and I felt I was in good shape.
Yet every additional week of training started to become harder and harder.
My body was constantly sore and I felt like a zombie. I tried to find ways to recover. I ate as well as I could. I did lots of stretching and I went to bed early to get enough sleep. Unfortunately, instead of falling asleep, I would lie in bed for hours waiting for my body to shut down. No matter what I did, I couldn't fall asleep earlier than at 2 a.m. or sometimes even later. After that, I would wake up feeling even more tired than the day before.
By the time my 6 months training camp ended, I felt exhausted. Nevertheless, I said to myself, that's how a hard worker has to feel. I believed that by training with such intensity, I will surely get used to it and eventually will get much better. Then, after taking only a month's break, I was ready for my next adventure.
I moved to Ireland, Dublin, to train at SBG Ireland, one of the most famous MMA gyms in Europe where dozens of world-class fighters train. Although I was still a beginner, I was glad to be given permission to train with the best.
Train with the best to become the best, I thought to myself.
I was also happy to learn that the pro MMA team session was happening at 12 p.m. daily. After my experience in the States, I figured that I am not a morning person, and that if only I would have gotten more sleep, my 6 months of training would have been way more efficient. I was ready to prove this theory.
But things didn't go as I planned.
After training daily for about a month, I was as burnt out, if not more, than when I was in the States. Training with professional fighters was so exhausting that after a single session with them, I didn't have energy to train on the same day anymore.
Meanwhile, the pros didn't even look tired at the end of the session, and I learned that they continued to train at least 1 more or 2 times that same day. Still, I was saying the same thing to myself. I only need to continue to push myself. Eventually, I will get used to it and will become significantly better, just like the pros do.
Yet even while I experienced getting somewhat better, I didn't feel great progress. I just continued to become more and more tired daily.
I started to lose hope. Maybe intensive training is not for me, I thought to myself.
The problem was that I was an all or nothing type of guy. If I wasn't training intensively, I didn't see a point in training at all.
And that's exactly what happened after my training camp in Ireland finished. I stopped training in martial arts entirely.
I came back to my home country Lithuania, and for a year, I didn't train.
That is until I met Sergey Masloboyev, a world champion kickboxer.
Sergey was looking for someone to give him some tips on how to grow his YouTube channel. I was glad to share what I knew. In exchange, as a thank you, he invited me to join his private kickboxing training group.
The time of the training was 8:30 a.m. That was way too early for me.
I remembered the days of how exhausted I was training in the mornings in the States. I didn't want to repeat the same experience.
At the same time, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to train in a private group with the world champion. How could I miss that?
I considered the fact that the training was happening only twice per week, which made me feel somewhat better. So I decided to commit for 3 months, and then after that, to say that it was enough for me.
I figured that no matter how tired I would get, I will be able to pull off a few months.
Twice per week though, early in the morning, was still a lot. My body wasn't used to training anymore, and kickboxing was new for me. I felt exhausted again.
Lacking sleep and feeling fatigued after the training. For the rest of the day, I was spaced out, didn't have any energy, and was waiting for the day to end so I could just go back to sleep.
I was also constantly thinking about the next training session, feeling stressed since I knew that I will exhaust myself doing it again.
Still, I continued to push on, and over time, things started to get better.
While in the past I thought that training twice per week wasn't worth it, I didn't even notice how the 3 months passed during which I improved a lot. I then realized that if I hadn't trained those 2 times per week for a few months, I wouldn't have gotten better at all.
One day, I also caught myself not thinking or feeling stressed about the next training anymore.
In fact, after the training, I was forgetting that I woke up early and that I worked out already, since I still had plenty of energy left. After the 3 months ended, not only did I continue to train further, I also had enough energy to add an additional weekly class to my schedule. After a while, I was ready to add one more. Without even noticing, I became comfortable and enthusiastic to train 4 times per week.
In the past, all this time, I was overtraining. I wanted to bite more than I can chew from the get-go and didn't realize I was getting in my own way. Only after experiencing that I progress much faster when I train only as much as my body can handle, I learned the most impactful martial arts lesson yet. Consistency and respecting your limits beats intensity. If you're interested to see my sparring progress compared to when I spar with a beginner, advanced person, and a world champion, click on this video right here. Thank you for watching, and as always, I wish you to own your journey.